where he's from and so on?
Riverside, is he?
Linda remembers.
Hopkins Sutter.
Riverside.
Hopkins and Sutter.
Yeah, major law firm.
Exactly.
In a moment, we're going to get into why it's important, but one of those that you found out from others that had a great presence at the club, and we believe has a lot to do with this problem we're going to discuss here tonight, was Henry Hyde. What about it? You as the daughter, found out a few things? What'd you find out?
That he was very instrumental, being that he was an associate of many of the club members, in stomping out my father's lawsuit for age discrimination. We knew that there had to be somebody big behind this, because the little people in the club would have not had that much clout to stomp it out.
Well, in a few moments we're going to go into what happened here, but Hyde supervises, as I think, we're going to show his letterhead here in a minute. Hyde supervises all the federal judges in the United States because he's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. And so, in other words, when you get into the court, the judges are beholden to him. Because if they're crooked, he's in a position to blackmail them, especially if he's connected with this exclusive golf club. So what happened, Joe? In other words, they fired you on what?
Age discrimination.
But in other words, you feel it's a trumped-up charge. What did they claim you did?
Stole meat, 70 to 90 pounds of meat.
But they later found out there was a receipt with no date on it that was a poor receipt. It was not original. They later found out that they couldn't even produce anything as far as evidence that any meat was ever stolen. It was proven that there was no theft at all.
They couldn't beat this case in court for the reason that he was fired for stealing meat. He was laid off for lack of work. He had an unemployment statement that they claimed that he was laid off for lack of work. Also, he had a letter from the insurance company, Cobra, that insures them, that since he resigned from the Riverside Golf Club, he could still have his insurance. Then they told the members that he retired, which got the members angry because he didn't even say goodbye, and he was gone.
So there were three different versions of what happened to this, which made it look very suspicious.
So in court, how can he go in front of a jury and say, this man was fired for stealing meat, laid off for lack of work, and a jury of kindergartners would figure something's wrong here. You can't have four things happen.
They don't even have a clear copy of the meat receipt, right?
No, they don't.
No. They had a poor copy, a very poor copy.
It was even the wrong date in which the meat would have been ordered.
Well, you couldn't see the date. You couldn't tell if it was an 8 or a 0. It looked more like a 0. And Judge Bobrick said, it looks like an 8 to me.
So, Jerry, tell us, any of your family members add to this, what were the problems in trying to get a lawyer? Well, first of all, you went to the federal equal employment.
Yes. They gave them our evidence, and they gave us the right to sue.
Yeah.
We had to pay for it out of our pocket because they're not
profit. So, what were the problems that you family members ran into, of which you're all aware, when you set about to get a lawyer to bring an age discrimination suit and a defamation claim for falsely claiming that you stole something? Well, what happened to get a lawyer?
They more or less were trying to find ways to intimidate him not to go before the courts and to settle. But it was cost.
For example, Kim, at one time, you thought, well, maybe Fast Eddie, Edward R. Vidolic is going to take this case.
Yeah.
What happened?
I had a friend that mentioned that sometimes he takes on the bigger corporations. I did call his office, and I was informed that I got to speak to his associate. I can hear him in the background, and I can hear him.
You heard him.
And I can hear him consulting with him on. I don't know if they put me on a speakerphone or whatnot. And I basically told him the story of what happened and occurred with my father, and he said I wouldn't take this case with a 10-foot pole. He said it's got politics written all over it, and there's red flags on the case. He said it's an unwinning case. He says I wouldn't waste my time if I were you.
We're not going to win it.
Because of something that's a specialty in Chicago.
Well, I mentioned the names. I believe the names scared him off the most. I mentioned the names that were...
What kind of names?
At that point, can you refresh my memory? I'm not good with names. About the people on the board.
Oh, right. Jim Brennan you mentioned. You mentioned...
the hot shots that run the thing.
Exactly. I didn't mention Henry Hyde because at that point I did not know he was involved.
But the point is, so you heard Vidolic's voice in the background saying, hey, clout. don't bring me this case, right?
Yeah, I
Somebody-
can't say 100% sure it was him, but it sounded like his voice.
And you were in touch with his law firm?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't until Jerry confronted, was talking about another court case, another discrimination case with Bob White when he was drinking, that he had mentioned that he had a Henry Hyde on his side. So he had nothing to worry about.
Explain to us, Jerry. Bob White was the manager, is part of your problem. And I understand he had an alleged sexual harassment suit against him.
Yes, he did.
And he drank a little bit, and what happened? Tell us.
I asked him, aren't you worried about it? He says, no, I got Hyde in my corner. Henry Hyde.
The congressman, head of the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
In my
He was
judgment.
blowing his own, he thought he was blowing his own horn. But then when he started talking, he said it has to be a big political honcho that's behind this, for this kind of clout. For them to have the blatantly, the way they did our case. I mean, let's face it, his was a mock
Yeah,
trial.
we're going to get to that. Yeah, we're going to get to that. So one of the lawyers, you had one lawyer after another. What happened? They seemed like they shot your horses every time, right?
Yes.
Every time your lawyer got on a horse, they shot him, right?
You were talking about no smoking guns, snowflakes. I mean, really goofy, you know what I mean? Good cop, bad cop. They did the whole routine, the whole psychological routine on you, you
So
know.
one of the lawyers you had never told you that there's a rule in the federal court, you got to be a federal trial lawyer, otherwise you can't go to a trial.
No, we were never told that.
They never told us anything.
That was
They just took her along, basically, the land to slaughter. They took the money. They never bothered to let her know that he could never go to trial because he didn't have that license.
And that was Bradley Pendergast.
Pendergast.
And you and he signed a contract which provided what?
A percentage of the settlement.
If he succeeds.
If we
And I've got a copy of the contract because I made up a file. And it says there that he guarantees to take the case all the way through the trial level.
And he
Without
wanted-
saying that he didn't say, hey, I can't really do that because I'm not a trial lawyer.
He tried to talk me out of it, take some piddly little bit of money, $30,000 I think at the time.
Which was a settlement that would have been less than the out-of-pocket,
Well,
right?
why not buy a little bar and make all that money back that they screwed him on?
Yeah.
So anyways, so you finally came to the eve of the trial and you had to get another lawyer. Right. Which is what, lawyer number 3 or 4 or 5 or what?
Well, after he insulted the pants off of even the expert witness he hired, nobody wanted to work with him anymore. So we had to cut him loose.
We started off with Jim Beecham
Then we went
and
to
Lisa Kane.
Now, one of those, the judge held certain things in her chambers. Judge Ann Williams of the federal court, who's a former prosecutor. She probably didn't tell you that, right?
No.
But they hounded you in her office, right? Well, what did they want to do with you in the office?
Well, they
In her
knew
chambers.
in her chamber. They knew I wanted to go to court. And they said, if this ever gets to the court, it'll be in and out just like that. Telling opposing attorney John Walsh.
And she also told you she could be sued for so much amount of money.
Yeah.
Well,
$60,000.
what Linda is getting to is something that's not well known, but let's just talk about it briefly. The Wall Street Journal some years ago said that the federal courts in Chicago are the worst in the United States on cases like your civil rights, you know, age discrimination, that if the judges don't like the case for political reasons, they say, it's a frivolous case, so we're going to get you. We're going to put a big damage on you and your house. So some of that came up in this case, right? They kept trying to scare this family.
Yes.
How did they try to scare you?
They would bring in all kinds. One was an Irish judge. They figured
Detroit.
since he's
From
Irish
Detroit.
from Detroit,
A close friend of Williams.
Judge Williams, right?
Yeah.
well, they figured since he's Irish, my father's Irish, they'll try to give him the old Buffalo Act. When that didn't work, then they tried the good bad cop routine. Then they kind of strong-armed him, and this is where my aunt, FBI agent Mary Ann Strama, steps in, because my father was explaining to her how bad it was when he used to go in there. He was intimidated. He was scared because you feel that you're supposed to have respect for the judge and do what she tells you to do.
And he felt like everybody was against him. He was right. They were badgering him.
Her aunt, his sister-in-law, your sister, right?
Right. And this was when Lisa King was the
Yeah,
attorney.
okay, but tell me something. Just give us a little bit of background about your aunt. Because evidently she confided in you the most.
She was very upset about what my father had told her. she was shocked as well because she's in the FBI, and, well, maybe not so shocked because on many occasions she was sent out of town for cases because she said that there was collusion in the different departments, and they had to send outside FBI agents to investigate all the cases.
Why do
in
you have to
general.
go all the way out of state? Don't they have FBI agents there? She says, for collusion. Anybody
Do I
can
understand?
defend
Let
themselves.
me see if I understand this for the viewers. In so many words, your aunt was saying, hey, Chicago's crooked. They got to send me somewhere else to look.
It's not Cook County for nothing.
Yeah, it's not. You're absolutely right. That's exactly where she was getting at, and that's why she went with my father, because she knew from what he was saying that the lawyer was in on this. They were playing games.
There's his lawyer.
That's right.
Jerry's lawyer, your father's
Yes,
lawyer.
Lisa Kane.
Everyone